Hello and welcome to round one of the iVision Saturday League Championship. Practice turned out to be a real eye-opener, as did qualifying, due to a lack of grip from the GT Sport servers. All the drivers complaining about it. Race on then, as we look at pole position. That's Dazman, and they are away. Buzzin seems to have made a good start to get up on the back of Treen. I'm sure Buzz is going to try and get up the inside of him here. They're all away cleanly then as they head into turn one, led by Dazman. Buzzin trying to get up the inside of Treen. Treen's gone wide onto the grass, so is little TG.
Well, little TG is the youngest driver here. He's on a brand new G29 wheel that he's trying to get used to, and with the severe lack of grip from the servers, I'm not expecting too much from the lad today.
Indeed, Dazman then leads them into the very fast downhill section towards the bridge. Daz and Buzzin have shared setups with all of the drivers here, and it's easy to spot that bright pink Panther livery as little TG tries to hang on to the back of the Australian driver Mikus. Dazman then onto the bridge. They'll be heading down the bridge section up to about 140 miles an hour, and then it's into the tight left-hander and then onto the section of the back straight.
Just going back to the levels of grip that are available to the drivers today, I have never known the GT Sport service to be this bad. I took a trip out in Dazman's Group 4 and I can tell you it was pretty scary.
Yeah, as scary as esports racing gets, Stewie. So they're onto the back straight, on board with Buzzin then. He's getting a very good tow out of PhD here. He's going to try and slip up the inside. He better be wary about that lack of grip at the bottom turn here. He's down the box. Oh, he tries to correct there as he loses a little adhesion, but he's through. Buzzin goes through to take second. I'm sure Phil is going to try and stay with him here. Buzz very quick through that left-hander and the right-hander here, and he's going to bottom out here. I'm sure Yep sparks from the back of the BMW, but he has gone up into second place then. So as they head down to the final corner, it is Dazman that leads them in first, Buzzin in second, PhD in third, then it's Treen, followed by Mikus, and little TG unfortunately seems to have dropped back.
Well, that's quite understandable, really. I mean, he was only using a Thrustmaster T80, which isn't the best wheel to be using. He used that for a couple of weeks after using a controller, and today he swapped over quite bravely to a G29, and getting to grips with it is going to take him a little while, especially with the levels of grip that we've got on this track today.
Indeed, and as we are on board with Mikus, he's trying to stay in touch with Treen ahead, but I've got to say, it's a pretty poor show for some of the non-showing entrants when an Australian can stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning to commit to racing.
And Dazman is a victim of the lack of grip. He just about saves it before going head on into the barrier. That means Buzzin is powered past him. PhD is also taking advantage of the fact that Daz has taken a trip onto the grass, so we're on board with PhD. That leads Dazman back in third.
So Buzzin goes through the first, PhD is second, third Dazman having slipped back, fourth is Treen, fifth is Mikus, little TG is still there in sixth. Obviously realises that competing still means points. If he just keeps going, anything can happen ahead. We're on board with Mikus as we take a look ahead to Treen, who is in pursuit of Dazman down the back straight then. Mikus not quite close enough to get the tow here. He might try and be late on the brakes, but of course with this lack of grip, then that might not be a good decision. Treen just locking up a little bit there as we look at Mikus taking the bottom right-hand corner. Then you can see that Treen is actually lagging a little bit as well, and I'm sure that could be causing a few problems for the other drivers as Buzzin goes into the back section, the final section before the last turn, and then it's on to the main straight. We're on board with Buzzin as we take a look back at the chasing pack there. You can see PhD being pressurised by Dazman. Then there's a gap to Mikus, followed by Treen in fifth place, and I don't know what happened there, but they seem to have swapped positions. Buzzin then into turn one. He's followed by PhD. Then it's Dazman. Buzz cleanly through with a nice line there. Daz seems to be getting the toe from PhD here. I'm sure he's going to try and get a move up the outside possibly. Oh, and PhD on the brakes there. He must have been carrying a penalty. That's allowed Dazman quite easily through. PhD carrying a penalty possibly for a slight corner cut. Daz goes through into second place. And as we take a look back, Treen has been able to get past as well. And also Mikus. PhD has slipped back from second to fifth place. As we go on board with him then as he approaches the bridge section. Oh, nearly a trip onto the grass. Nearly a victim of the lack of grip on this circuit this morning then. Mikus on the bridge section. He's got a good gap to PhD behind Buzzing, getting a tiny bit out of shape on the left-hander. He's going to head down towards the very fast right-hand corner around about 110, 120 miles an hour. They take this one, then it's flat out down the back straight around about 150, 152 miles an hour down here then. As we take a look back behind Buzzing, you can see Daz is not close enough to get a toe here.
Well, just going back to the PhD incident, I have to say he was quite gentlemanly about getting rid of that penalty, because I would have waited until closer to the corner and coasted, and that would have meant that I wouldn't have got past, quite highly probably, by the chasing Buzzing.
Indeed, and we have been hearing some of the in-car radio talk from the drivers. They are all complaining even more about this lack of grip from the GT Sports servers. We know this room is being hosted on a Virgin Internet 380 download and 60 upload, so there shouldn't be any problems with the host. It is in fact the GT Sports servers. As we look then, second place Treen, third place Dazman, fourth is Mikus from Australia as they head down to turn one then. Dazman staying away from the inside green line there. He doesn't want to pick up a penalty like PhD did the lap before. As we go on board with him then, he's chasing Treen ahead, and there's the info. Daz was third, placed third in season one of this championship, the Head Candy Championship.
And I have to say that if it wasn't for the driving standards of a couple of the drivers, then I think Dazman would have either been second or competing for that championship, because he had a terrible run of bad luck in the early races because of the attitude of some of the other competitors.
Yeah, got to agree with you there, Stewie. We're not going to mention any names, but I'm sure if you've followed the Head Candy Championship races, then you'll be aware of what we're talking about. You can find the Head Candy season on the 4GR8Media page, 4GR8Media.co.uk/home/gaming. All of those races there, and all of these iVision Championship races you can follow by subscribing to 4GR8Media on YouTube, or of course seeing them on the home page of the 4GR8Media website. We're on board then, taking a look at Treen ahead in second. This is Dazman's view. He's trying to stay in touch and get close enough to get a toe from Treen. Treen just locking up slightly there. We have seen a lot more locking up smoke since the 133 update. Buzzing then, coming towards the final turn. He's got a good lead over Treen, and Dazman not trying to make any mistakes here. He had a poor qualifying down in fourth place, which was quite out of character for this circuit, because this is one of his favourite circuits. Treen then being pushed by Dazman, who was millimetres away from the barrier wall there as PhD goes through in fifth. We're on board with Dazman. Is he going to try and get up the inside here? He qualified first, but of course had that little incident towards the bridge. He's got a brilliant line through there. He's going to get the toe off Treen. He's going to be up the inside. Is he going to be able to make this stick here, or is Treen going to come back at him up the inside of the left-hander? No, I think he's clear. I think he's going to be clear unless Treen's going to be late on the brakes, which might be a dangerous move with this lack of grip then. So Dazman nicely through on Treen to take second place.
Yeah, that was a nice move by Dasman on Treen, but I'm sure Treen is not going to give up on achieving that second place, as Dasman seems to be a victim of the lack of grip there. He had a slightly different line to normal, and you can see that they are still struggling with this lack of grip in the GT Sport Services. Treen tries to come back at Dasman on the bridge section. Then is he going to get up the inside? Let's see whether he can make a move stick here.
Indeed, Stewie, as Treen just locks up slightly on the inside. I think Dasman's just ahead. Yes, he is, as they head into the very fast right-hander then. Mikus is still trying to stay in touch with these two as they head down the back straight up to about 150 miles an hour then. It's clear air for Dasman of Treen behind, and I think Mikus is a little bit closer to Treen ahead as we see PhD. He's desperately trying to claw his way back after suffering a penalty early on. Buzzin, meanwhile, up front, he's got a really healthy gap to Dasman and Treen behind. No problems here at the moment. I'm sure he can afford to take it a little bit easier on this slippy track. Buzzin, of course, in the Works iVision livery. All of these liveries for all of these cars have been made by Buzzin for the competitors. They're only allowed to compete with an official livery. Buzzin in the White Works livery, and I'm sure you're going to see some slight variations of that as we go through the different classes. Take a look back at the gap to Dasman and Treen, and it's quite significant to Buzzin. Treen pushing Dasman all the way as they go into the final lap of this opening sprint race. Dasman quite cautious through there. Treen with a slightly quicker line, and he may get a bit of a tow up here as we look back on board with Mikus, the stay up all night Aussie. It must be about 2 o'clock in the morning where he is at the moment. That's dedication for you. As he gets a slight wobble on there from the lack of grip. He's not really close enough to do anything about Treen ahead. Treen still pushing Dasman, but you can see Mikus has a healthy gap to the chasing PhD behind. Mikus is pretty firm through there speed-wise. He looks to have caught up a little bit with Treen. You should be able to see on the bridge section as to whether he's any closer and looking likely to get a tow down the back straight. Dazin then is trying to pull out a little bit of a gap to Treen. It's not really working at the moment. He's a little bit cautious around there. Treen taking a slightly tighter line, and it looks as though he might get on the back of Dasman here if he can get a good exit out of this corner, and Treen definitely is close enough. We go on board with him. He's definitely close enough to pick up a tow here.
Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Treen doesn't go for it here at the bottom of this straight. He's getting the tow off Dasman ahead. He's going to pull out shortly. There he goes. Oh, and there was quite a significant sideways lag movement from Treen there. He's gone up the inside and slightly outbraked himself there. I think Dasman is going to come back at him. He does.
Indeed, Dasman does not allow Treen to make that move stick as we look ahead at Buzzin then. He's on his last lap. He's flashing the headlights. It's going to be a good job well done then, barring any errors at this last turn. Buzzin enters the final straight then, and he's got a bit of a victory weave on there as Buzzin wins the first race of round one. Dasman takes second. Good recovery there. Treen comes in third. Fourth is Mikus, and PhD fifth. Little TG yet to cross the finish line, but he will complete this race. 20 points in the bag then for your race winner, Buzzin.